All right, folks, we'd like to get started this evening. Welcome to the candidates roundtable discussion tonight. Our guests tonight will be those people running for Watauga County Commission. And although it's a round table, you can see that the definition of round is relative. But anyway, we'll go with what we got. My name is Bob Burrows, and I'll be your moderator tonight. The evening is being sponsored by the Floating Rock Civic Association, and we're pleased to have with us the association president, George Wilcox, vice president, Bill Carter, treasurer, Betsy Wilcox. Tonight would not have been possible without a group of dedicated people. The chairwoman, who's done a yeoman's job in this thing, believe me, Karen Hurd. If it hadn't been for her, a lot of this wouldn't have happened. So thank everyone for being here and participating in it. Lauren Carter was head of the food committee, and a lot of this food was done in-house. Probably all of it was done in-house by Lauren.
Before y'all leave here, there's a bunch of fun. Get a bag and take it home. Get 5 bags, 10 bags, don't leave it with
And whatever needed to be done to make this program move forward tonight, Karen is the one that made it happen. If you'll look at the program, you'll see a list of our sponsors, and we ask you to thank them if you see them. We have some guests with us tonight. We have the 2 candidates for sheriff, Lynn Hageman. Thank you. Thank you. David Searcy. Thank you. We have an incumbent county commissioner with us, Jimmy Hodges. Is Jimmy? Okay. Do you have any other incumbent county commissioner? All right. We also have Floating Rock Mayor with us tonight, Charlie Sellers. Mayor Pro Tem Albert Yount. Town Commissioner Sue Sweeting. Town Commissioner Doug Matheson. Town Commissioner Virginia Powell. We also have an individual running for clerk of Superior Court tonight, Travis Christer. Travis, are you here? Okay, thank you. Now, the format for tonight is going to be relatively simple. We'll start out, each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement. No rebuttal. After that, we have designated questions, and they'll draw from a hat, and they will draw their question. After that, we'll have audience questions, and after that, we'll have a closing statement, 2 minutes. So everything is 2 minutes. We also have a timer, Tim Gutton, and Tim will raise his cell phone when you have 30 seconds to go. So when you see him raise the cell phone, you know it's time to wind up. So tonight, we'll start with number 1. Thank you, number 1, in just a minute. So if you have any questions that you want the candidates to answer, if you'll raise your hand, we'll get them from you. There was a bowl back there to put them in to start with. But hopefully all that's been done. All right? Okay. So we're about to begin. Let's go ahead and get started and start with you.
Okay. Well, I did make some notes here. I see I'm not on yet. Am I on, Steve?
Two clicks.
2 clicks.
Now I'm on.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself and let you know the issues that are of concern to me and hopefully to you as well. But before I get, are you going to read a bio for each of us?
No, they're in the program, and if everybody was just look at your program, the bio is in there.
I didn't realize that. So, okay. Many folks have asked me, why in the world would you want to run for county commissioner? A lot of people call me crazy. A lot of people just say, why do you want to do that? So I thought that was a really good question, and it's a question that I asked myself over and over. The decision to run did not come lightly, but with much consideration and prayer, I decided to run for county commissioner. I've had family members involved in politics, so I know in local politics, and so I know the demands and the time involved and the importance of the decisions that are being made. One element in my decision to run for office was to consider that my family has been blessed to live in Watauga County for 11 generations. I firmly believe all citizens have a responsibility to give back to their community in some way, and there are many ways to serve. I've always tried to teach my children the importance of being a servant leader. I feel this is the time in my life to accept responsibility and to serve the community in our local government. We have important issues that are, hang on just a second. We have important issues that are before us that need to be addressed.
30 seconds.
Okay. I believe a plan for strong economic growth is a priority. The county must be creative in developing a business environment that encourages our existing businesses to grow and expand, new businesses to relocate, and startups to begin. We have many pieces to the puzzle in place. We just need strong leaders who are good at connecting those pieces. I believe I have the knowledge and skills and the experience to do that. We've got school facility needs that need to be addressed, and I'm done. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Billy Kennedy. I'm in my 6th year as a county commissioner here. I ran in 2012 and ran again in 2014. I've learned a lot in the 6 years that I've been doing this. I've been on multiple boards during those 6 years, mental health, Project on Aging, Children's Council, and we're doing things are going really well with the county right now. We've got a lot of plans in place. Our bond rating has just gone up to AA plus after in our recent review, so we're doing well on bond. This rec center is a dream that people have wanted for 40 years, and so finally we're going to make it happen, and we got a unanimous vote on the board this time to go ahead with it. So I think there's good support for that. The schools do need work, and we have a plan in place for the long-term repairs and replacement of our schools. It's probably going to be close to $100 million, but we've got a plan that we're working on that and working with the school. There's an architect prioritizing which projects should go first, and we're going to fund those projects with county money. All this is within our budget, and we've got a great manager, and it's a really good working relationship we've got right now. I'd really like to be able to continue and see some of these projects through, and hopefully you'll allow me to do that. And I want to thank you all for letting me do this for 6 years. It's been a great experience. And one person said that, implied that I was in beholden to special interests. Well, the special interest I'm beholden to is everybody in Watauga County. That's who I'm advocating for every day and working on it, because I want to live here. I've been here 38 years, and I'd like to live here the rest of my life. So thank you very much. I'm Billy Kennedy, and I appreciate your vote in November.
First off, I'd like to thank the Little Rock Civic Association for inviting us and putting this on. I know there's a lot of work that went into it, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. My name is Tommy Sofield. I am a local businessman here in town. I actually came to ASU to play on a football scholarship back in 1971, and was one of the fortunate ones to be able to stay here in the area after I graduated. I am excited about being part of the county commissioner race that we're going to be doing. I'm not a politician. I have no idea anything about politics much in the past. I've had folks that came to me and asked me to participate. To be honest with you, I've been blessed and I've been fortunate to be able to live in this community, and I think it's time for me to be able to give back. And so that's why I'm doing it. I'm excited about some of the opportunities we have. We have a tremendous opportunity for our school systems. In our school system, some of these schools are 70 years old that we need to be replacing. I'm thinking about some of the stuff we need to do there at schools. Economical development is a big part of our community. As we continue to grow and our children and our grandchildren start to move forward and looking for jobs. As I said a minute ago, I was very fortunate to be able to stay here and start a couple of businesses and be able to stay in the area. Most people don't have that opportunity. One of the burning desires I have is for our community to be able to have better jobs and offer better opportunity for the younger generations to come along. Also, besides economic development, just lower taxes. The money that comes into the county is everybody sitting in this room and throughout our county. It's your money, and we want to spend it wisely. I'm looking just to be able to offer good common sense back into our communities and help in all I can. So thank you very much.
Is this one on? Yes. I'm David Blust. Been honored to be elected 3 times to county commissioner. Came here in the 70s. Been married to Cindy Blust for 37 years, 3 wonderful boys. And it's a privilege to be elected as a county commissioner, to be a servant to the people. I tell people the number one thing that people can remember is who the money belongs to. And I know in the last election I got defeated by my friend here, and immediately they raised property taxes 13%. I believe that they think your money is their money. And I'm with Tommy. I want to be a good steward of that money. I know in 10 years of being a county commissioner, didn't raise taxes one time. I'm very proud of that. Thank you, Blowing Rock, for turning out for this. This is great. George and Betsy, I told someone, I said, they'll pack the place out. They do a great job. But we have a lot of priorities that seem to be misplaced in this county right now. Schools has been mentioned over here. We've got 2 schools, elementary schools, that need to be built ASAP, and we seem to be spending money other places. So I want to remind you that I do know where the money comes from. Government doesn't have a dime unless they take it from you and me. So thank you again for being here. I look forward to this tonight.
I'm Larry Turnbow, and yes, almost 2 years ago I ran for county commission and won. And when I ran, I promised to support a recreation facility for the children, those of us that are aging out in this county. It's been talked about for 40 years, and nothing has been done for 40 years until I was elected. We had a unanimous vote on the existing commission to go forward with that project. We're going forward with the project. I understand that none of us, including me, like to pay taxes. It's unfortunate that we're in a position that we had to increase taxes because we do have schools that have aged out. And of course, as my friend and opponent has said, he's been on the commission 3 times and nothing was done in those 3 times he was on the commission to do anything about our schools. We're giving $1.5 million more to education since I've been on the commission than we've ever given. We are in constant contact with the Board of Education, working with them to see what their plans going forward are so that we can get our schools replenished, replaced, and repaired. So if I'm re-elected, I will continue doing that, and I will continue doing the EDC work that I'm doing, and bring in better paying, sustainable jobs for our community so that we don't have to increase taxes. We can increase our tax base by providing better jobs. Thank you.
Good evening, and I want to also thank the Blowing Rock Civic Association for putting this on, and for everyone that came out tonight. I knew that Blowing Rock would turn out for this event, and it's nice to see everyone in the room tonight interested and engaged, because that's what we need. I'm Charlie Wallen, and I am running for County Commission. I am one of the challengers as well, and I will be representing District 5, even though we vote for the whole district. I am looking forward to this opportunity. I have been involved civically for a long time in this community and area. I've lived here over 30 years. I served almost 10 years on the Watauga County Planning Board, 6 of them as the vice chair. I have also been engaged in many nonprofits in this area. I have been working at ASU for almost over 20 years. And before that, I ran all the Pizza Huts in town that are no longer around. Back in the 90s, before when they were still profitable and they were locally owned and operated, as many of you may not know. So I've been in the area for a long time, and I've worked to give back to my community in every way, shape I can. Whether it's coaching young children that I've done for Parks and Rec, just being involved in Parks and Rec, whether it has been, like I said, engaged with local nonprofits, helping them, working with the school systems. I have a wonderful daughter who's here supporting me tonight that's 10 years old and helping in her school. And I just want to keep that civic duty as we go forward. I want to be able to represent you on the county commission because that's who I represent. I represent each and every one of you here in this room tonight. I represent not only my area over in District 5, but I represent Blowing Rock, and I represent Boone, and I represent Seven Devils, and I represent Cove Creek, and all of the different areas around the county. And I take that seriously. And anybody would tell you I work really hard at what I do, and I stay heavily engaged and involved. And thank you all for being here tonight.
We're going to go ahead and get started with the audience questions. We'll hold the prepared questions for later on because I'd rather see what you want to know. Here's a question that's for everybody, but it's initially addressed to Billy Kennedy and Larry Turnbow. And then the incumbents and challengers can answer
Bob,
later.
can you use the mic?
He's on.
How am I doing? Doing any better? Good, okay. For Billy Kennedy and Larry Turnbow, how many times in the last 2 years have you attended Blowing Rock Town Council meetings and what other civic events? And we'll start with Ms. Turnbow.
Since I've been elected, I have attended 5, possibly 6, but I know 5 Blowing Rock Town Council meetings. I attended ribbon cutting when we started testing out the park. I've been here for Veterans Day since I'm a veteran. I share that between Blowing Rock and Boone, so I've been to both. I've been here for the cookout down at Blowing Rock School since my children went there. I've been to many events over here, and I really can't think of all of them, but those are the ones that come to the top of my brain. Thank you.
And Mr. Kennedy?
Well, I live in Bethel, and I'm about as far from Blowing Rock as you can get. And I'm about 3 miles from the Tennessee line. I've got a 100-acre farm out there, and I raise cows and goats and do woodworking. I've been, I'd say 10 to 20 hours a week of going to meetings since I've been elected. No, I have not been to a Blowing Rock Town Council meeting, but I have met individually with Blowing Rock Town Council members over the time. I'm heavily involved in different boards. I'm at ribbon cuttings for the Middle Court Greenway. We've supported that. We understand that's a big priority for Blowing Rock residents, and we want to make sure that happens. That's an $11 million project. All these infrastructure projects don't come easy, so we need to make the hard decisions to go ahead and do them, and then everybody benefits from them for years to come, and they bring businesses here. So I can't say how many times I've been here because I must say that by the time I've had, last week I had a meeting or 2 every day. So I'm staying focused on county business, and I think the towns do well to take care of themselves, and then we coordinate with the different towns when it comes to town-county matters. So I'm very much connected, although y'all haven't seen me here. If I'm reelected, I'll start coming to some of your meetings.
Then there's a takeoff of the same question for the challengers. How often will you commit to being in Blowing Rock at civic events and town events, regardless of your district? And we'll start with number 2.
I think, again, we're representing
not just Blowing Rock, but the whole county. And the different meetings that they have at over in Boone or any of the other communities, I think we need to be part of and communicate with and be there. So if I'm elected, I can guarantee you'll see me around Blowing Rock, attending whatever I can. I'm here to help people in Blowing Rock as much as I could do. And I'm a listener. What I do is I tend to listen. After I listen, I evaluate. And after that, I like to put strategic plans together. So I'm excited to listen to anything Blowing Rock folks have to say. And I'm excited about working with you in the future. So anything I can do for Blowing Rock, I will definitely be here to be supportive of. Next.
It came to me, I guess.
All right.
Well, I come to Blowing Rock often. I'm never been to a town council meeting up here, though, I'll tell you that, but I would commit to doing that, because I really think it's important that we all work together. I'm with Tommy on that. I believe being a good listener is important, and that's something that I like to do, is hear what other people have to say, and I think to be a good leader, you've got to be able to do that. So I love to come to Blowing Rock. I love to eat up here. They got some great restaurants up here, so we live over in the Voss community. But, it's not hard to get up here, so you'll see me if I'm elected. Thanks. I'm up.
Okay. I'm up here a lot. I've been to a number of civic meetings up here and other functions. I'm here almost every day. I know a number of you. You see me out. I've, over the years, met many times with Doug Madison, good friends, Albert Yount, Jim Steele, Ray Pickett. When Ray was on there, I'd see him and talk to him. Charlie Sellers, I always make it a point to talk to Charlie. John Warren, who works here, Kevin Rothrock. I constant communication with those guys. So I know what's going on in Blowing Rock. And just today, I think there were 3 different people that live here that I stopped and talked to along the roads, working out in their yards. I do that every day that I'm up here. I'm always talking to people. So I'm very much in touch with Blowing Rock. And a lot of you see me up here, day in and day out.
One of the things that you'll find out pretty quickly if I'm elected as the commissioner is that I like to be everywhere, and I like to be engaged with a lot of people. I represent a lot of different organizations, and one of them is a district-wide organization, and they will tell you there's 11 counties that I work with, and I try to at least be there at least every month or every other month, and that's covering spans from here all the way down to Stokes County. And let me tell you, going from here to Stokes County, that's a 2-hour and 30-minute drive. So I want to be out and be engaged with people, and I want to be involved. And I'll be here being at the town meetings to see what's going on and listen. I can't promise I'll be at every single one of them, but I'll be as many as I can to hear what the needs are and what's going on. I already constantly am in Blowing Rock for different events, different things. I'm the director of catering on campus, and we've been doing a lot of events here in Blowing Rock. So we've been spending a lot of time at a lot of private homes. We've been doing a lot of things for Brom. And I've really been excited about the partnership we've formed with them and trying to promote everything going on over there and to get people interested and involved and just building up and doing whatever we can here in Blowing Rock. And so when my daughter loves to come over here and use the park, she loves to be over here hanging out and just having a great time being here. She might love to come and get some ice cream every once in a while. So, and to be downtown just enjoying this beautiful community. And one of the stories I love to tell is when I was a young ASU student, and even in my younger days, I spent a lot of time playing basketball over here every Saturday, Sunday afternoon with whoever. And so, you won't worry about being able to see me. I'll be here and I'll be available and I'll be accessible, and you'll never have to worry about that.
Thank you. Mr. Turbo, the next question is, what are the infrastructure needs of the Blowing Rock Elementary School at the present time?
We were having issues with water damage and mold at the facility. I talked with principal, I talked with some of the staff that was there right after I was elected, and one of the first things that I did was talk to the superintendent of schools and talk to the Board of Education about the issues that have been going on with that school. And before school started, I did go down and meet with the principal. Those repairs were taken care of. The infrastructure issues that are going on, a lot of this is outgrowth from the building being as old as it is. We have to look at that facility, but that's a decision that the Board of Board of Education will make. They're elected, and we have to look at their priorities for this. So the initial problems that were going on with Blowing Rock, I had those taken care of when I was elected.
All right, thank you. This is a question for the general panel, so we'll start with number one. Number one will answer this question. Nobody else will have to worry with it. Do you believe it was a wise decision on the part of the Watauga County Board of Commissioners to raise property tax by 13.3% and to authorize borrowing over $20 million to build a recreation center that will cost over $38 million and result in projected operating losses of about $375,000 a year for the foreseeable future?
Well, I wasn't privy to all that information, when it was being discussed with the commission. That's a great first question. But I do believe that that a recreation center was something that the county has wanted. But I do believe that a recreation center is important for the community as a whole. I do have concerns that outlying areas like Bethel, where Billy lives, and I live in Vilas and Blowing Rock, it's going to be a little bit hard to use it for those areas. But I do believe it is centrally located. I think it's something that would benefit Blowing Rock economically. I've tried to research that, and they say it's been said that there's $26 to $46 million economic impact, and I think that will help some with Blowing Rock. If I had been on there, though, I would be honest with you, I would really try to come in less than that, if that makes sense. I've been in business for a long time, for over 30 years. I've dealt with a lot of contractors. I've been involved in development in commercial buildings and residential, and there are ways that you can cut costs, and I would have hoped we could have come in under that, but that's just, I guess that's where we are now, but I haven't been a part of that conversation, so that's probably where I am at that point.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, we hear there is no technical reason for a cell tower or antenna. Why does it keep coming up? And who instigates the tower antenna dialogue?
That's a good question. We did a study. We're in the process of doing a study of our 911 communication needs. We just had to purchase 6 new dual band radios for our deputies. It's with the geography where we live, it's a tricky question. It's tricky to get service everywhere. And we need our emergency medical, our EMTs to be able to get there and be in communication, and the sheriff and deputies and police too. So we've got a study. We hired Marvin Hoffman to do that. He's very experienced in this. We've got conceivably maybe a $7 million price tag for all these towers we need. The state is instituting a Viper system, which is a type of communication system they're working on, and there's funding for that, but we haven't been able to use all of that funding they've got because we have a hard time finding sites. So everybody wants to use their funds, and we need this 911 communication. So you do a study to find out where the needs are and the gaps are, and then you prioritize, because we can't do this all at once, and we're doing a phased-in approach to upgrade our towers and upgrade our 911 communication system in the county based on a survey we had done by an expert. So that survey, I believe, is available, and you should look at it because it's really important to see that we have access for communication everywhere in our county. Thank you.
We're going to skip over to Ms. Sofield. there is a state statute that exists that county commissioners are responsible for abandoned cemeteries. Would you budget money for the care of these abandoned cemeteries?
First time I've heard of that.
Me too.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, all of us, I think, would be concerned about that. Our forefathers and people who are in the cemeteries, whatever it is that the state statute is requiring us to do, we certainly need to make provisions to be able to help and make whatever kind of provision we need to do. But I had no idea that that was an issue at this time.
All right, thank you. This is for Mr. Kennedy. Why was money spent on the health facility? Why was not free enterprise allowed to risk their own money? Plus, it would have provided a tax source if owned privately.
I assume you're talking about the community recreation center?
No, health
Center.
facility down across from the hospital.
The wellness center? I'm curious.
They call it a health facility.
I know
The
that.
wellness center is a part of the hospital, and I'm on the hospital board, so I'm familiar with that, but I don't understand the question.
Maybe you can clear it up. I guess the question now is why would the hospital do it rather than let free enterprise do it?
This is my question.
Yeah.
In my excitement, I obviously put down the wrong vernacular. My question really is, and to the gentleman's sentence over there, if it takes 40 years for a business to not want to build something, I'm really wondering why our tax dollars are being used. I mean, the Taj Mahal was built, for somebody obviously wanted it. This to me is the same kind of thing.
Okay, let's see if you can help me.
Okay, so we're talking about the community recreation center we're
Whatever the
building.
name of it is.
That's the official name, it's the Watauga County Community Recreation Center. The need has been there a long time. My kids, our high school swim teams didn't have anywhere to swim or compete in the county. That swimming is a big part of it. We hope to see every third or fourth grader get to learn to swim for free at this new facility. It's something that the community has wanted. There's quite a big drive for it, and it's we had to figure out how to pay for it. So we raised the tax rate, and it came out to 1% a year for 12 years, which is below inflation. We are still the third lowest property tax rate in the state, and that money that we raised from the tax rates, 1.5 million of that goes specifically to school construction. 2 million will be financing the rec center, and the other $500,000 will go to public safety, which is those cell phone towers and 911 towers that I was talking about. And we have budgeted in without any increase operating expenses for it for the future too. So this is a very well thought out plan. We've had different stakeholders involved in it, trying to get people from all different parts of the community so that we get what facilities we need. The escalation of costs has driven up the cost. If we wait longer, it's going to go up. It's about 8 to 10% a year for commercial construction. And yes, I'm a builder, and I'm staggered at how much it costs, but this is a facility that will outlast us and will benefit our children and everybody else. So, thank you.
All right. So this is a general question for each one of you. It's real short, it's real simple, so we get a minute to answer. We'll start with number one. How many yard signs and campaign material targeting Blowing Rock and Blowing Rock voters do you plan for this current campaign?
How many yard signs? Okay. Okay, well, my signs are out there. I hope you saw them, and if anybody needs some, they're right back there. But we've already had signs up here. Actually, I'd like to thank my wife for helping me with those. And we're interested in the Blowing Rock voters. I know a lot of people in Blowing Rock, a lot of people that work for the town, and a lot of you in the community, and I've met some of you tonight, and I appreciate that and enjoy getting to know you. But I don't know, was there an exact amount that I need to say?
Okay, pass it down.
My wife and I spent all afternoon yesterday putting up signs all over the county, and it's a great experience to drive around and see the whole county. We didn't get Blowing Rock yet. It's the last place on our thing. We've covered 105, 321, 421, 194. We've been to the edge of the county in every direction, and we're coming to Blowing Rock too. So I'm sure I've had signs up for almost 10 years now, so I expect people have kind of figured out who I am, and I hope that I can keep doing this job I'm doing. Thank you.
As I said earlier, I'm not a politician. I think the signs are sort of annoying at times. But I think that instead of having them all over town, we need to have some locations where the community might say these are better places to put them in the future, instead of these signs all over the place. So again, I'm not real big on the signs, but obviously we have to get them out. A lot of folks in Blowing Rock don't know who I am, so I need to get some signs out to be able to let you know who I am. But as far as having absorbing them out of them, it is annoying to me.
I'll probably have about 25 signs, give or take, around Blowing Rock. But a lot of times, I'll speak for these folks too, a lot of times you don't know who gets your signs and who puts them where, because you have access to them at headquarters, you have access to them at a number of different functions that you go to, just like in the back there. So I've got a number of them out in Blowing Rock, but 3 or 4 of them I didn't even put out, so I don't know how they got there. But I'm thankful somebody put them there.
As few as I can possibly put out, because I drive into Blowing Rock and I hate seeing them myself. I think normally I had put out the minimum that I could so that people are aware, and I think it's probably about 9. I'm hopeful that I don't put any more than 9 this year, because I'm no more interested than anybody else in seeing them. Thank you.
I have been putting out signs, and some have went up this afternoon as well. It'll probably be roughly around 15 to 20. I do not like them. They're a necessary evil is what I call them, of being in the campaign business. And I really try to limit as many as I can put out, and I hope that more homeowners will take them and put them out and put them in their yard so that we don't have to clutter up intersections. I will say one of the things that can be done is, being a member of the planning board, there is a sign ordinance, and there is a limitation that we can put on these signs and how often they're out. And when I was on the planning board originally, we greatly reduced how long the political signs could be out. That's been reversed now, and it's a lot longer. And so I think the shorter amount of time, the better. If they can go up until the day before. Oh, you didn't. I thought you were going to give it to me 15. So. Thank you. Well, I knew that. I thought you were going to give 15. So. All right. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we have 6 questions, and these questions were drafted by a committee from the BRCA. And each one of these candidates will draw a question blind, and that'll be their question. Based on the questions that have already been asked, you'll hear some duplication. Hopefully a different candidate will draw it. So what I'm going to do is, I'll ask you to pick one. We hear reports that Watauga schools on the elementary and middle school levels have many facilities that are aging or in disrepair. Some of them are over a half-century old. How can the county commission justify spending $38 million on a rec center rather than accelerate school infrastructure?
Answer. Well, that's kind of a tough question. I'm not an incumbent. So, but I can tell you, I can answer that question.
How would you answer it 2 months from now?
Yeah. Let me read this again. I'm not ready to get
Sure.
We hear reports that Watauga County schools on the elementary and middle school levels have many facilities that are aging in disrepair. Some of them have over a half-century old. How can the county commission justify spending $38 million on a recreation center rather than accelerate school infrastructure spending? my wife was on the school board, and I have a good understanding of the school needs that we've had. We've had them for a long time. And personally, I would like to have seen us had a plan for these schools. It's very important that we have Valley Cruces and Hardin Park. Hardin Park is 125% capacity right now. So we definitely have school needs. And I would have liked to have seen, I know we're working on that, but a long-range proactive plan instead of a reactive plan for our schools. So if I had been on there, which is always hard to do, to make that because you are not privy to all the information, but I would have liked to seen a plan for those school needs in place before we move forward with that recreation center.
Here's the recreation center. The most recent all-in construction cost for the new recreation center in Boone is $38 million. What is the projected annual operating budget for the center, and how is the county going to pay for it?
Well, I've answered some of that already. We do have it, I don't know the exact numbers. It's going to be about $600,000 more that we're planning on operating. Pools are very expensive. We've got our existing county pool right now is over 40 years old. It was an outdoor pool with a cover put on it. It's rusting out. We're having to spend $200,000-$300,000 a year to repair it, and that was just money down the drain. But I believe pools are important for our county, and the people in Boone and Blowing Rock, they expect these infrastructure. We've got, the way we did this is we did a construction manager at risk, so there's going to be a guaranteed maximum price on this. We did value engineer $4 million out of this building already. We've made a lot of hard choices. We've cut it back as much as we can without cutting scope. We really think the 4 gyms is important for this facility to be used. And we've got it budgeted in with our next year's budget to cover, so we'll be fine on this. And as I said, the tax increase went just for education buildings, school buildings, which there is a plan in place for that we're working. That is the school board's responsibility to really set that plan. They've got an architect they've been working with, and we've been encouraging them for years to make a plan and set priorities, because you can't do all this work at once. You've got to start and prioritize which is most important. And then, as I said before, we've figured out how to pay for this recreation facility, and we're going to be, one thing I'm really hoping to have there is for every 3rd or 4th grader in the county to learn to swim for free there. And a lot of people, that'll bring people in from the farther reaches of the county and get them access to that facility too. And the more healthy we are, the more we all save in the long run. So getting our kids to learn to swim and getting everybody more healthy is going to save us all in the long run. Those are hidden costs. Thank you so much.
What is the projected annual operating budget for the center, and how is the county going to pay for it?
Well, it's in the specifics. We're moving our whole Parks and Rec office into there. So I do look at the budget. I've gone over 6 budgets a piece at a time, and I don't know the exact total amount because it's including our Parks and Rec, which is about 8 staff right now. We'll probably have a couple more staff people. But we also are looking at revenue creation here too, because if with the right programming, you can offset a lot of those costs. And this facility is going to be so nice, it'll be it's where people are going to want to come to exercise. So, like I said, we're budgeting an extra $600,000 next year in our budget to cover any extra costs.
Okay. Blowing Rock citizens have twice beaten back proposals to put a communication tower or antenna on Green Hill Circle. Should this proposal still be considered by the county, and given today's technology, is it even necessary?
Not being on the county commissioner and knowing much about that, obviously just hearing it, if the local community has twice beaten it back, I mean, obviously the county commissioners need to listen to the people of the community. and make sure that again, y'all know a whole lot more about what's going on here than, not trying to say anything bad about Billy or whatever, but if he's over in Bethel, he's trying to learn what's going on. If he does not listen to the local people around here, it concerns me. But, so anyway, I would, if I was on the council and I had those, I would look at it, obviously, from the standpoint is, do we need it? And if we do need it, then obviously we need to all get together and figure out how we do it. Maybe it has to be moved to another location. But as far as the community itself, I totally believe that whoever in the community wants things done, the county commissioners should be obligated to listen to the folks that have voted them in and put them there. Just to, since I got a few more minutes real quick, just want to mention on the, if it's okay, mention on, everybody's talking about the community center. Quickly on the community center, I'm all about these children having a place to go. Some of these, if you go across the United States, there are so many people that are turned out to be good citizens because they had a YMCA or whatever to be able to go to in their community. However, a YMCA knows how to run. They build them for $15 million a piece, and they manage them for $2 million a piece. Spending money that we spent, I think if we spent $15 million, but the other 25 towards our schools, we've been locked in wrong.
Sales tax distribution. A few years ago, the county's sales tax redistribution was changed from a focus on per capita, which favors Boone, to an ad valorem calculation, which gave more money to lower population towns like Blowing Rock, where a higher relative portion of taxes are generally generated. What is your position as to whether the sales tax distribution should emphasize ad valorem or per capita tax valuations?
Well, I was one of the votes that changed it from per capita to ad valorem. And since that time, we've been able to give Blowing Rock $1.8 million more. And talking about listening to citizens, John Aldridge beat me to death for about 3 years on that, and had lunches with him, and he was just constant. Some of you know John. And he was right. Blowing Rock is a town that for 5-6 months out of the year just swells. It's not the overall population. You guys deserve so much more, and I'm glad we did that. I would not go back at all. Ad valorem is based on the property values. So Blowing Rock's come out ahead on that, certainly. But just like the population, just like with the ambulance service, you need full-time staffing at your ambulance service here. We said that 3 years ago, Perry Yates and I, and we still haven't gone through with that. This certainly needs to be the next place that needs to be full-time staffed. So Blowing Rock's a unique place, but yes, I would not go back on the tax. I would keep it ad valorem.
Okay. Kirkland? Looks like Mr. Lawrence will get the last one. Economic development. Good municipal management usually places an emphasis on growing the tax base as opposed to increasing property tax rates. How do you propose to encourage economic development in Watauga County in order to grow the base?
Thank you for that. I was just in Raleigh, Durham area with 3 other members of EDC and Joe Furman a week ago. We were there for 2 days evaluating co-work space areas, talking with young entrepreneurs, talking with small to medium-sized business owners, looking at developing high-paying, sustainable jobs in Watauga County based on IT rather than manufacturing, which is not going to come here. And of course, there are 2 ways, and I've been an advocate of this since I ran the first time. There are 2 ways that you can grow your tax base. You can either increase taxes, which none of us like, No one up here likes that. Or we can work to develop sustainable, grown jobs here to keep students that have gone through all of our schools, that have been here for generations with their family, that have no opportunity to stay. I have 3 children, only one of them is able to live here and work. The other 2 have had to move. That's happened with, I think, every family in this county. So yes, I'm trying to develop, along with EDC, a long-term plan so that we can develop jobs and keep those jobs here. Thank you.
Ambulance service. Blowing Rock may not be geographically centered in Watauga County, but it arguably has the highest proportion of elderly demographic with the highest probability of needing emergency services and the ability to pay for those services when needed. Why shouldn't Blowing Rock have a full-time ambulance when the town is offering the facilities to accommodate the truck and crew for virtually nothing?
One of the things that I believe in is making sure that we do have proper coverage in all of the county. One of the things that the district that myself or Tommy would be representing would argue they need one as well. And I think that both areas need full-time coverage. We worked on the western end of the county and got them something. Now we need to make sure that this end of the county, I've worked with numerous employees at ASU that live in this area, and this is one of their biggest complaints to me, is making sure that we have full-time coverage for the citizens here to be able to have an ambulance that can get to them readily. And I've told them that, when I get on the commission, that I'd be able to work with the town here, work with the county, and figure out what's the best way to do that, to take whatever resources y'all are willing to offer, to do whatever resources we can do to make sure that you have the coverage that everybody in this county deserves. Not only here in Blowing Rock, but also in the eastern part of the county as well, because there's a need out in there as well that needs to be met. So we need to figure out how we can make sure that the response times to all these areas is almost negligible. Because as everybody knows, every second counts when a life is at stake. And we don't want to risk losing someone just because we can't get there. And I do know that our response times are great around the county now. But can we do better? Yes. And should we do everything we can to put our resources to make sure that happens? Yes. In this last budget, education was the top priority of things that got funded. But the second was all of the emergency services. And we need to keep building on that. And we need to keep trying to find ways to make things better so that we're all as safe as possible.
This ambulance thing is important. Just want to have a show of hands. How many of you have visited the Blowing Rock Fire Department in the last 2 years? Okay. No, hold them up so they. Okay, folks, take a look. Then, this question is so important. Let me just go down the line here and ask, would you favor full-time ambulance service for Blowing Rock? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Have a yes.
Did you? It's hard to, you don't want a yes or no comment at all, because I've been on the EMS committee for 4 years.
Yes or no?
Yes, but look at the study, and the study we're trying to reduce times everywhere. It was 23 minutes for an ambulance to find you in the western county, into the county. Much lower here. We're trying to get everything down to below 10. So.
Yes or no?
The answer is yes, but real quickly, my understanding was the county commissioners had promised after they did the west end of the county that you guys would get this over here in Blowing Rock, and they haven't followed through on it. So it's something that does need to happen.
My answer is yes, and Doug, you'll remember this. Perry and I definitely, Perry Yates, who's on there now, that was what we remember clearly was Blowing Rock was next, and I would definitely support full-time.
Well, let me ask that. Everybody said Blowing Rock is next. Can anybody define the word next?
ASAP.
ASAP, okay.
I mean, again, your population swells here for 5 or 6 months. Then you have all the bones broken up at Appalachian Ski Mountain on the weekends in the wintertime. It's just amazing. By far, this needs to be done more than any other place.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think it's great to say what we do and do not support. We had no ambulance service in Blowing Rock before I was on the county commission. And I met with the council members. I advocated, I worked, and we're evaluating the time. I think it also sounds good to say in front of a group of Blowing Rock residents, it should be full-time. Well, I don't know that that's the case because we have an ambulance service that we're evaluating times. I'll continue to advocate for Blowing Rock, and if the time justification is there, yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I've already answered, so I won't
Okay.
take any more time.
I just got stuck here. He didn't have a chance to give an explanation.
This is great being first, I'm telling you. No time to think about anything. But it was my understanding that the town funded a lot of the new fire department and the ambulance base that was there. And it was, from what I understand, it was said that once the ambulance base was completed on the western end of town, that on the western end of the county, then it would be next, as we talked about. So if the way I look at it is you save the county a lot of money by building that. So now I think it's time for the county to pony up and do their part and provide the services and the staff.
Folks, as I would tell the attorneys, the mind can absorb only what the seat can endure. So we have used our hour. In fact, we are 59 minutes. Well, I hope that tonight some of you have had some of your questions addressed. Maybe some of them were even answered. But I'd ask you to talk about this with your friends. Encourage your friends to become informed and get your friends to go to the polls with you and vote. So thank you for coming tonight, and hopefully we'll see you at the polls. Oh, ho. I cheated these guys. I cheated them. Hold on, folks. Hold on. I thought they made their closing statement on the ambulance, but obviously they didn't. Each one of them has 2 minutes to close. And so we'll start with number 1. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay, folks. Heads up. Heads up. Hey. Go ahead.
Thank you. You thought you were done with us. But I just want to thank you all again for the invitation to come and share my thoughts and my ideas. Needless to say, this is my first time, if you read my bio, running for political office. It's been very interesting. I've eaten a lot of fried fish, a lot of barbecue, and I've spoken to a lot of people, and I got this to show for it. But the best part of the campaigning is getting to know the citizens. I've always thought the best leaders are not always the ones that use the most words, but the ones that can listen well. And I feel like I'm a good listener. I've spoken with many citizens, including farmers, contractors, business owners, students, government leaders, talked to educators, and yes, even people that don't have the same political persuasion as me. A county commissioner has a lot of hard decisions to make, and they're not easy, as these guys could attest to that. But I believe a good leader is able to review the situation, the positives and the negatives, and how it will affect the stakeholders. Once educated on the issue, I believe a good leader is able to step back for a moment, assess where we are, review where we want to go, and then discern the best way to get there. I have confidence that I can do that. I believe Watauga County is in a unique position to prosper economically and educationally and culturally. I believe if we're unified, as our country needs. I would like for us to set the standard for unification because it's not that way in our national politics. But I believe if we're unified and we use common sense, conservative values, that our communities and our towns are have a bright future ahead. So I appreciate your vote on November 6th.
I'm Billy Kennedy, and I've got a card that I made up when I ran 6 years ago. And my goals were to provide our teachers and schools with the resources needed to nourish our children. We're working on that. Keep Watauga County beautiful for all those who live here and those who visit. That's a way to draw people to our county. Make sure that government is fair, honest, and efficient while working for everyone. And then finally, create an environment where businesses can thrive and create jobs. Those are still the same 4 points that I'm working on. This is what I'm here for. I'm here to represent you and listen to the people of Watauga County and come in and help them realize the dreams they have for our county. Once you're elected, you represent everybody in the county. And so whether I agree or disagree, I listen to them, I let them give them access to talk to me and share their opinions. I go to meetings, I read all material. I've only missed one county commissioner meeting in my 6 years, and that was when my son got married, so I figured that was okay. But it's really important that we keep moving, the momentum moving forward, and Blowing Rock is not left out of this circle. The ambulance, we're looking at that very carefully, and the studies, we need to be data-driven on some of these issues, the towers and the ambulance station, and get these ambulances closest to where people need them most. And Blowing Rock's obviously one of those places, so I plan on working towards that, and I appreciate your support, and I hope you'll vote for me one more time, and I'll keep representing you as best I can. Thank you. I'm Billy Kennedy.
Again, I'm first time, I've not been in politics before, but I have been on the EDC board, and one of the things that I hear, and one of the reasons I am running is our EDC board is funded for about $65,000. Everybody wants to talk about growing our job bases and having businesses join our area. For $65,000 to have a part-time EDC person, you're not going to get anything done. Counties our size are being funded for anywhere between $500,000 and $700,000 to go out there and really recruit businesses to come up here to this area, so in their areas. So as far as the moving forward and having jobs, we're either going to have higher taxes or we're going to have more jobs come in with job bases to be able to support the expenses that we're going to have as we continue to grow. So I'm a big component of having better jobs and working towards that. My business I have, we employ over 100 people. There's a lot of people like myself that would love to be here and be able to have a small business in this area. So that's a real big issue to me. Our schools is another big issue that, as we said, we've got schools that are just wore out. Our children deserve better than that, and we need to work towards the schools. You have to plan. If we've been planning on the county commissioners for the last 8, 10, 15 years, we wouldn't be in the position we're in. I think strategically we need to plan long term. You got to start today, plan long term, and 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, we're going in the right direction. So I would be excited to do that. Obviously, common sense goes a long way. Sometimes as governments can get out of control, and it's just not common sense. Just simple common sense goes a long way in what you're doing, and that's one of the things that I feel that I can bring to the table, not being a politician in the past. One thing that I think I could also do, I'm active over at ASU. I know a lot of the committees and different things I've been on over there. We as a community need to come together. We have our town of Boone, Blowing Rock. We also have the county and the schools. The three of us all need to come together as a group, like-minded, and continue working together. Thank you, and I appreciate you coming out tonight, and I appreciate your vote. If you vote for me, Tom Sophia. Thank you.
You've heard my position on a number of issues tonight. There are some others that weren't mentioned. I know resource officers are needed in all 9 schools. And I know that the Blowing Rock Town Council provided the resource officer for Blowing Rock Elementary School this year. The county should be doing that, not the town of Blowing Rock. That's the county school. So we do need to do that. We have a lot of needs. A lot of questions about the rec center, and I just struggle with the priorities. I know 8 years ago there was a vote in the county, a bond referendum for a rec center, and it failed 62 to 38%. So then YMCA came in and spent almost 2 years with a study. They came back and said a rec center is not going to work here. It's not going to make money. It's not going to provide what it needs to provide. Yes, we do need a swimming complex, and that certainly needed to be addressed. But a rec center of started off at 30 million, now it's 38.7. We all know, everybody in this room, is going to be 45 to 50 before it's over with. And I heard tonight that don't like to raise taxes. Well, I contend that my Democratic friends do like to raise taxes. They've already proved that. They do it locally, they do it statewide, they do it nationally. So your money should belong to you. I recognize that fact. I think we need to be very cautious in taking your money and how we spend it. And some other issues, the $4.1 million was lost on the sale of the old high school because of liberal policies set down by the town of Boone a few years ago. Had a $19.1 million offer on it. Liberal policies from the town of Boone kicked in, $4.1 million lost. $161,000 that my Democrat friends spent suing themselves over this asphalt plant. $161,000. Priorities are messed up here, folks. I know who the money belongs to. I would appreciate your vote in November. Thank you.
Yes, priorities are messed up. I can promise you, as I've made and kept the promises that I made before, that if we have citizens that are concerned about what's being built or going on in their area, we will have a public meeting with those officials rather than allowing the town to condemn them without listening to our constituents. County commissioners are there to represent you, and they're there to represent everybody in the county. That, of course, was not done. I would never be a party to that. I'll also not be a party to indicating that SROs are important, particularly after I've been on the commission 3 times and did absolutely nothing about increasing SROs. We doubled them. I also wouldn't talk about education being a priority when I didn't give the schools the money, the backing that they needed. I did that. Yes, again, none of us like taxes being increased, but of course, when I came on with the great management that we had, our bond rating was AA-, but somehow our fiscal management is perceived by the bond companies to be better. So we've just gone back up to AA+. So I think we are fiscally responsible. I think we do a good job with our money. I think long term we have to realize that the children of this county have no other choices other than sitting in front of computers, dealing drugs, taking drugs. We're trying to give them a facility so that they have another life. Thank you.
I just want to say again, thank you for everyone who came out tonight. Thank you for everybody who stuck around for this last little flurry of closing statements, because I know everybody's ready to go home and be out. I just thank you for taking the time to be out here and to be with us and to listen and to be engaged, because that's what it takes for this community to thrive and this whole county to thrive is engagement. I also want to thank my wife and daughter who come out here to support me and be here tonight. They don't always get to be here, and it's just great to be able to have them beside me tonight. And so I just thank them for taking the effort to be out here tonight to support me, even on a school night when my daughter probably should be in bed. But you know, folks, we've got a lot of issues in this county that we need to address, and we've got a lot of issues here in Bowling Rock, and we've all got to work together, and we've got to come up with a solution and a plan. The strategic plan has been mentioned 3 or 4 times. This right here was written 8 years ago and thrown on a shelf. I was the chair of the committee that wrote this. And we went around to every single community. I sat right over here in the Blowing Rock Auditorium and listened to everybody's concerns, and they were in here in this strategic plan. Everything that's been talked tonight was addressed in the strategic plan, and it got put on a shelf. It's got put on a shelf and ignored. And when you do something like that, you've got to use it. You have to use what has been laid out in the plan that this county has. And so that's what I want to see us do. This needs to be updated and rewritten. But sadly, a lot of the things 8 years ago, and when I wrote this 20 years ago, since the one before it, nothing's changed. We need to work as a county, and we need to set a plan, and we need to stick to it, and we need to get everyone in this room's opinions on that. Not only this room, but all over the county, and to work forward. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go number 2. I believe the candidates will be willing to talk with you after this is over on 101.